You will never win if you rely on motivation. Motivation is emotion. It rises, it fades, it disappears when life gets hard. Discipline is decision. It's not about feeling ready, it's about acting when you don't. This audiobook is not about hype, it's about control. The control to show up tired, to execute bored, to push forward when nobody's watching. If you learn one thing from this, let it be this. You don't need to feel good to do great things. That's the disciplined mind. Absolutely. Here's the full audiobook script for Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. Approximately 1,000 words, written for 7 to 9 minutes of audio narration in the authoritative, tough love coaching tone. Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. You've been lied to. You've been told to wait for the right time. You've been told to prepare more, plan more, think more. That's the trap. That's why you're stuck. Readiness is a myth. Nobody ever feels ready. Every champion, every entrepreneur, every soldier, every performer, they all stepped forward before they felt ready. They acted while they were scared. They moved while they were uncertain. That's the truth nobody wants to hear, because it removes your excuse. You don't wait to feel ready. You move, then you adapt. You decide first, you adjust later. That's the disciplined mind. When you wait for the perfect time, what you're really doing is protecting your comfort. You're trying to control every variable before you move. But here's the truth. Control is an illusion. The world will never align perfectly. Your finances won't be perfect. Your emotions won't be stable. Your confidence won't magically appear. The people around you won't suddenly support you. If you wait for everything to be perfect, you'll wait forever. That's how dreams die, quietly under the excuse of not ready yet. The great ones start anyway. Michael Jordan didn't feel ready when he took his first game-winning shot. He missed. He learned. He adapted. Steve Jobs didn't feel ready when he started Apple in a garage. He wasn't a CEO. He wasn't an expert. He just had an idea and the discipline to begin. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for certainty. They moved, and the movement created clarity. That's the key. Action breeds clarity. Waiting breeds doubt. The disciplined mind moves before it feels ready because it understands this. Motion builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come first. It comes after. You have a choice. You can wait until you feel ready, or you can act now and grow through the process. Every time you move without certainty, you're building mental armor. You're teaching your brain that you don't need the perfect setup to execute. You're proving to yourself that you can adapt on the fly. That's what separates winners from wishers. Winners act. Wishers wait. Think about this. Every day you hesitate, someone else begins. Every day you overthink, someone else takes the first step. By the time you feel ready, they're already ahead. They're learning while you're planning. They're adapting while you're analyzing. They're failing, but they're moving, and that's why they win. Because movement beats perfection every single time. The disciplined mind doesn't need the perfect mood. It doesn't need the right motivation. It doesn't wait for confidence. It creates confidence through consistency. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to have everything. You just need to start. It's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. Every small move matters. Every imperfect step counts. The man who waits to feel ready will be waiting while the disciplined man is winning. Here's what you do. Stop thinking about step 10. Focus on step 1. Don't build a perfect plan, build momentum. Start the workout, write the first page, make the first call. You don't have to see the whole path, you just have to move your feet. And every time you do, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching it that action is the default, not hesitation. That's how discipline works, through repetition. You don't wait to feel ready, you move, then you adapt. Say it again. You move, then you adapt. You think readiness will bring confidence, but confidence comes from evidence, and evidence comes from action. You can't think your way into discipline, you act your way into discipline. You do, and your mind follows. That's the formula. That's the system. That's the disciplined mind. When you tell yourself, I'm not ready, what you really mean is, I'm afraid. Afraid to fail, afraid to look stupid, afraid to be judged. But here's the truth. Failure is feedback. Embarrassment is education. Fear is fuel. Discipline doesn't remove fear. It moves through it. You're not supposed to feel ready. You're supposed to feel resistance, and then move anyway. Because every time you act in the presence of fear, you strengthen your identity. You prove you're the kind of person who moves despite emotion. That's real power. You have to stop romanticizing preparation. Preparation is important, but perfectionism is poison. You can't rehearse forever. At some point, you must perform. Start before you're ready. Speak before you're comfortable. Build before you're qualified. Every master was once a beginner who started messy. Every expert was once a student who stumbled. Stop glorifying readiness. Start glorifying resilience. Because readiness is passive, discipline is active. Let's get brutally honest. If you're waiting to feel ready, you're choosing weakness. You're waiting for comfort instead of building capacity. And comfort is the killer of progress. Discipline grows in discomfort. You'll never feel ready to wake up earlier, to confront your laziness, to take responsibility. But that's the work. That's the grind. That's the transformation. The moment you stop needing to feel ready, you become unstoppable. Because now nothing controls you. Not emotion, not doubt, not fear. You move regardless. You execute regardless. You adapt regardless. That's how you win. Say it again, and say it loud. You don't wait to feel ready. You move, then you adapt. That's the code. That's the standard. That's the disciplined mind. You've now taken the first step. You've destroyed the illusion of readiness. From this moment forward, every hesitation will be a signal, not to stop, but to go, not to freeze, but to move. Because that's what separates talkers from doers. And you're here to do. You've learned to act without emotion. You've learned to move without permission. Now it's time to strengthen that power even more. You've conquered hesitation. Now let's talk about the real enemy of consistency, emotion itself. Chapter 2. Emotion is the enemy of consistency. End of Chapter 1. Approximately 1,020 words. Would you like me to proceed and write Chapter 2, Emotion is the Enemy of Consistency, in the same tone and length next? Absolutely. Here's the full audiobook script for Chapter 2, Emotion is the Enemy of Consistency. Approx 1,000 words, written for 7 to 9 minutes of spoken audio in a tough love, direct audiobook tone. Chapter 2, Emotion is the Enemy of Consistency. You can't build a disciplined life on emotional ground, because emotions shift, moods change, motivation fades. If your consistency depends on how you feel, you'll never reach greatness. Emotion is the enemy of consistency. That's the truth. That's the battle you're fighting every single day, not against the world, not against time, but against yourself. You have a choice. You can live led by your emotions or ruled by your discipline. That's the key. When you live emotionally, you live reactively. You act only when you feel like it. You show up only when you're inspired. You perform only when life is comfortable. But consistency demands something different. It demands neutrality. It demands execution, regardless of mood, weather, circumstance, or emotion. You are not your feelings. You are your follow-through. Look at the greats, the ones who don't miss. The soldiers, the athletes, the creators who seem to run on a different code. They don't operate by how they feel. They operate by what they've decided. When the alarm goes off, they don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" They move. They act. They execute. Because they understand this one truth. Your feelings are temporary. Your standards are permanent. Discipline doesn't care about your mood. Discipline doesn't care about your motivation. Discipline only cares about what you do. Let's get practical. There will be mornings you don't want to train, nights when you don't want to study, days when you feel empty, uninspired, completely drained. But emotion is not a reason to stop. Emotion is simply data, not direction. You can acknowledge it, but you don't obey it. You don't let it dictate your behavior. You feel it, then you move anyway. That's the power of emotional neutrality. It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about refusing to let them lead. Think of a surgeon. When they walk into the operating room, they don't have the luxury to feel emotional. They don't pause because they're tired. They don't cancel because they don't feel ready. They execute. Because a life depends on their consistency. Your life depends on yours. You have to stop chasing emotional highs. Stop chasing motivation. Stop chasing the perfect mindset. That's emotional addiction disguised as growth. Real growth is doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it. That's discipline. That's control. You are not your feelings. You are your follow-through. Here's the pattern that ruins most people. They feel inspired, they start strong. Then emotions dip, life gets heavy, the mood changes, and they stop. They restart again when it feels good, and the cycle repeats. That's why they never build momentum. That's why they never finish anything. They keep trying to ride emotional waves instead of building emotional anchors. You have to anchor your actions to your principles, not your moods. You have to decide who you are on the days you feel nothing. That's the difference between emotional people and disciplined people. Emotional people need to feel right to act right. Disciplined people act right until they feel right. That's the key. Listen carefully. Your emotions are not truth. They're signals. They're momentary. They fluctuate based on sleep, nutrition, people, weather, pressure. You can't trust them to guide your consistency. If you let your emotions drive, they'll crash your progress every single time. If you let discipline drive, emotions will eventually follow your lead. You lead the feelings, not the other way around. Let's get real world. When you train, there will be days you hate it. When you build a business, there will be days you want to quit. When you chase mastery, there will be weeks of silence, boredom, frustration. That's where most people break, because they think feeling low means something's wrong. But nothing's wrong. That's normal. That's discipline testing you. You don't need to fix the emotion. You need to keep the motion. That's how professionals think. That's how disciplined people operate. They move regardless. You are not your feelings. You are your follow-through. Here's what to do when emotion hits. 1. Pause. Don't react. Take one breath. Observe the feeling. Don't attach meaning. You're not tired. You're just feeling tired. You're not unmotivated. You're just experiencing a dip. 2. Redirect. Instead of asking, "How do I feel?" ask, "What needs to be done?" Replace emotion with execution. 3. Repeat. Every repetition of this process strengthens your emotional control. Every time you move while emotional, you build mental muscle. That's how you build resilience. That's how you train stability. The world worships emotion. Follow your heart. Trust your feelings. Do what feels right. That advice keeps people weak. Because emotions lie. They change with every failure, every comment, every setback. If you live chasing comfort, you'll never catch consistency. Stop trying to feel right all the time. Start doing right all the time. Consistency doesn't come from emotion. It comes from standards. You show up because it's what you do, not because it's what you feel. You have to separate yourself from your emotions like a soldier separates from noise in battle. If you panic, you lose clarity. If you hesitate, you lose control. Discipline requires calm under chaos. It requires the ability to think, act, and execute even when you don't want to. That's emotional mastery. That's self-control. You can feel tired and still move. You can feel scared and still act. You can feel nothing and still execute. That's power. That's freedom. Because once emotion stops controlling you, nothing else can. Say it again. You are not your feelings. You are your follow-through. When you finally accept that, you become untouchable. You become the person who shows up on the bad days, who stays calm when others panic, who acts without waiting for emotional permission. That's consistency. That's discipline. That's what wins. So from this moment forward, stop letting your emotions decide your effort. Decide once, then act daily. Commit once, then show up forever. Don't chase feelings, command them. Don't wait for motivation, create movement. Because motion always builds emotion. That's the formula of the disciplined. You've learned to separate your emotions from your execution. You've built control under pressure. Now it's time to take that power deeper. You've mastered neutrality. Now let's talk about how to weaponize repetition, the engine of all discipline. Chapter 3. Do it bored, do it tired, do it anyway. Okay, would you like me to continue and write Chapter 3, Do It Bored, Do It Tired, Do It Anyway, next in the same tone and depth?
Absolutely. Here's the complete full-length audiobook script for Chapter 3, Do It Bored, Do It Tired, Do It Anyway. Approximately 1,020 words, structured for 7 to 9 minutes of spoken narration with powerful pacing and tough love tone. Chapter 3, Do It Bored, Do It Tired, Do It Anyway. Discipline isn't built when you're motivated. It's built when you're bored, when you're tired, when you've done the same thing 100 times and nobody's watching. That's where it's built. That's where it's tested. That's where most people quit. The mind craves comfort. It craves novelty. It wants excitement. It wants the rush, the reward, the dopamine. But discipline doesn't care about excitement. Discipline only cares about execution. That's the key. Anyone can work hard when it's new. Anyone can show up when it's exciting. But when the spark fades, when the routine feels heavy, when the work becomes boring, that's when the real ones rise. The average person says, I'll wait until I feel it again. The disciplined person says, I'll do it anyway. That's the difference. That's the separation between amateurs and professionals. You have a choice. You can chase feelings or you can chase progress, but you can't chase both. Think about soldiers in training. They don't ask how they feel before they march. They don't check if they're excited before the drill. They move on command. They act on standard. Because they know the mission matters more than their mood. The objective doesn't care about how they feel. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks if you showed up. That's the rule. That's the system. That's the code. The same truth applies to your life. You want to get fit? You'll have to train on days when you're exhausted. You'll have to push when the gym feels like the last place you want to be. Because discipline doesn't grow from the easy reps. It grows from the hard ones. When your body says stop and you keep going, that's when identity changes. That's when weakness turns to strength. You're not training your muscles. You're training your mind. The greatest athletes, soldiers, and performers all share one trait: consistency without emotion. They do the work whether they feel like it or not. They repeat the same drills every single day, not because they're fun, but because they work. That's what mastery is. Repetition without excitement. Repetition without applause. repetition without emotion. That's how you build identity. That's how you build reliability. You want to know why people fail? Because they quit when it's boring. They stop when it's repetitive. They assume boredom means they're doing something wrong, when it actually means they're doing something right. You have to rewire your relationship with boredom. Boredom isn't the enemy. It's the signal that consistency is working. When the mind says, "This again?" you respond, "Yes, this again, because this builds me." Repetition isn't punishment. It's preparation. You're not stuck. You're building stability. You're creating strength through monotony. Let me give you the truth no one tells you. The disciplined life is not glamorous. It's quiet, it's repetitive, it's unexciting. You'll wake up early and feel nothing. You'll do the work and see no immediate reward. You'll grind day after day and wonder if it's worth it. It is. Because every boring day compounds. Every dull rep builds identity. Every tired effort pushes you further away from who you were and closer to who you're becoming. That's how transformation happens, not through motivation, but through repetition. You have to learn to work without excitement. You have to learn to act without applause. You have to learn to perform without reward. That's discipline. Motivation is momentary. Discipline is permanent. Motivation wants feeling. Discipline wants follow-through. Motivation says, "I feel good, so I'll act." Discipline says, "I'll act and I'll feel good after." That's the inversion. That's the key. When you're tired, you move slower. When you're bored, you doubt. When you're drained, you question why you started. That's the moment that matters most. That's where 99% stop, and where 1% are forged. Because discipline isn't about doing it once. It's about doing it forever. Even when it's dull, even when it's draining, even when it's invisible. You have a choice. You can do it when it's convenient, or you can do it when it counts. And it always counts most when it's hardest. Here's how you build that mindset. 1. Detach from emotion. When you wake up tired or bored, remind yourself the mission didn't change. Your emotions don't get a vote. The job remains. 2. Commit to repetition. Boredom is proof of consistency. The same reps, the same actions, that's the groundwork for greatness. 3. Reward the process, not the feeling. Stop chasing the rush. Start chasing the routine. Every time you do it bored, you strengthen your discipline muscle. That's the method. That's how you become unstoppable. The truth is simple. Your brain will never crave repetition. It will always crave variety, distraction, stimulation. But discipline isn't built in variety. It's built in monotony. It's built in doing the same things when the novelty wears off. When you repeat something long enough, it becomes identity. And once it's identity, it no longer requires emotion. It's automatic. That's where freedom lives. So the next time you feel bored, smile. That's your signal. That's the test. That's where everyone else turns back. You'll keep moving. You'll do it bored. You'll do it tired. You'll do it anyway. Because that's what the disciplined do. They act independent of emotion. They move independent of mood. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks if you showed up. Say it again. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It asks if you showed up. Boredom is not the enemy. Fatigue is not the end. They're both gateways, entry points to a higher level of control. When you master boredom, you master consistency. When you master fatigue, you master endurance. And when you master both, you become unstoppable. Because nothing, not mood, not motivation, not excitement, controls you anymore. You've learned to act in silence. You've learned to move in monotony. You've learned to show up regardless. That's what makes you rare. You've now built the foundation, the ability to act without feeling. You've learned that boredom and fatigue are not barriers. They're training partners. Now it's time to turn that repetition into power. Because repetition creates results, and results create respect. You've done it tired. You've done it bored. Now let's talk about how to weaponize that repetition into mastery. Chapter 4. The Power of Repetition Over Inspiration. End of Chapter 3. Approximately 1,030 words. Would you like me to proceed and write Chapter 4, The Power of Repetition, next, continuing the same audiobook rhythm and tone?
Absolutely. Here's your complete full-length audiobook script for Chapter 4, The Power of Repetition Over Inspiration. Approx 1,020 words, structured for 7 to 9 minutes of spoken narration with an authoritative, tough love tone and powerful pacing. Chapter 4, The Power of Repetition Over Inspiration. Inspiration fades. Repetition endures. That's the truth. That's the dividing line between the dreamers and the doers. Motivation wants novelty. Mastery comes from repetition. Say it again. Repetition creates results. Results create respect. Most people chase inspiration. They want to feel moved before they move. They scroll for quotes. They wait for sparks. They want something external to ignite something internal. But that's the trap. Because inspiration is temporary. It's sugar for the mind. A quick hit, gone just as fast. Discipline is the protein. Repetition is the meal. It feeds you slow. It lasts. It builds. You have a choice. You can live addicted to inspiration, or you can live committed to repetition. One makes you dependent. The other makes you powerful. Every master you admire, athlete, musician, soldier, leader, they all share one pattern: repetition. They did the same motion, the same drill, the same process thousands of times. Not because it was exciting, because it worked. That's the key. Repetition doesn't entertain you, it transforms you. Every repetition is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every single act repeated daily becomes identity. You don't rise to the level of inspiration, you fall to the level of repetition. That's where your life lives, in your repeated actions, in what you do, not what you dream. Let's be honest. You've been tricked into believing you need to feel ready, that you need to wait for the right time, that you need some spark of creativity or motivation to begin. But the people who win don't wait for inspiration. They build systems. They build habits. They build discipline through repetition. It's not about feeling inspired. It's about being reliable. Repetition builds trust with yourself. Every day you keep your word to yourself, your mind learns. I can depend on me. That's how confidence grows. That's how self-respect builds. You don't earn respect from results. You earn respect from repetition. Because results are the outcome of what you repeat. Repetition creates results. Results create respect. That's the chain. That's the law. You might think repetition sounds boring. That's fine. It is. It's supposed to be. Progress is boring. Success is boring. Discipline is boring. It's the same meals, the same workouts, the same words, the same grind. But that boredom is where growth hides. Think of a boxer. He doesn't throw new punches every day. He perfects the same jab, the same cross, again and again. That's repetition. That's mastery. Think of a pianist. She doesn't play a new song every time. She drills the same scales over and over until her fingers move without thought. That's repetition. That's freedom. Freedom comes after repetition, not before. That's the paradox most people miss. You don't repeat because you're trapped. You repeat because you're becoming unstoppable. Here's the reality.
Repetition rewires your brain. Every repeated action strengthens a neural pathway. Every consistent habit etches a pattern into your identity. That's not motivation. That's biology. That's how humans are built. If you repeat excuses, you become the kind of person who quits. If you repeat discipline, you become the kind of person who follows through. Every repetition is a choice. You're always training something, even your weaknesses. So ask yourself, what are you rehearsing every day? Because what you repeat, you become. Inspiration feels good. Repetition does good. Inspiration makes you feel like you're changing. Repetition actually changes you. That's the difference between a talker and a performer, between the one who posts about goals and the one who achieves them. Stop chasing new and start mastering now. Stop collecting ideas and start executing one. You don't need a new plan. You need consistent action, repeated, daily, without fail. That's where the power is. Here's how to build repetition into your life. Step 1. Shrink the task. Stop making it epic. Start making it repeatable. It's not about the size of the action. It's about the consistency of the pattern. Step 2. Schedule it. Don't rely on willpower. Rely on structure. What's scheduled gets done. What's repeated gets ingrained. Step 3. Track it. Measure your streaks. Stack your wins. The human brain loves proof. Let repetition be your evidence. That's how discipline becomes identity, through measurable repetition. You're not supposed to love it every day. You're supposed to do it every day. That's the mindset shift. You don't chase feelings, you chase faith. Faith that repetition will deliver results. It always does. You might not see it right away. That's fine. You're not supposed to. The results of repetition are invisible until they're undeniable. That's how all greatness works. You plant, you water, you repeat. And one day, everyone calls it overnight success. Let's bring it home. Repetition is your weapon. It's your anchor when emotion fails. It's your engine when motivation dies. The world doesn't need more inspired people. It needs more disciplined people. People who show up. People who repeat. People who execute. You have a choice. You can live for the high of inspiration or the strength of repetition. Inspiration fades by morning. Repetition compounds for life. Repetition creates results. Results create respect. That's not a slogan. That's the system. You've built the mindset of do it anyway. Now you've learned the secret of doing it again and again. Not until you're tired, but until you're transformed. Because when repetition becomes your rhythm, nothing can stop you. You've conquered emotion. You've mastered consistency. Now it's time to take that repetition and apply it to something most people never learn: patience. Because repetition builds, but patience sustains. And together, they forge unbreakable focus. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Patience. Why Time is Your Toughest Test. Okay, end of Chapter 4. Approx 1,030 words. Would you like me to continue writing Chapter 5, The Discipline of Patience, Why Time is Your Toughest Test, next, keeping this same structure, rhythm, and coaching intensity?
Absolutely. Here's your full-length audiobook script for Chapter 5, The Identity Shift, From Wanting to Being. Approximately 1,050 words, crafted for 7 to 9 minutes of spoken narration with the commanding audiobook authority tone. Chapter 5, The Identity Shift, From Wanting to Being. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. That's the truth most people never face. They want discipline, but they still think like the undisciplined. They want transformation, but they refuse to become the person who does the work. They say, I'm trying to get in shape. I'm trying to be focused. I'm trying to be consistent. That's the problem. Trying keeps you stuck in wanting. Being moves you into doing. Stop trying. Start being. Here's the hard truth. You don't get disciplined by doing disciplined things once in a while. You get disciplined when the act becomes your identity. You don't try to go to the gym. You are the kind of person who trains. You don't try to eat clean. You are the kind of person who respects their body. You don't try to focus. You are the kind of person who finishes what they start. That's the shift, from effort to embodiment. When you're trying, you're negotiating. When you're being, you're executing. When you're trying, every day is a debate. When you're being, every day is a decision already made. That's the difference between friction and flow. You want to know why you feel resistance every morning? Because your actions don't match your identity. You're acting like one person but thinking like another. That internal war is what drains your energy. Discipline ends that war. You make one decision, who you are, and then you live it. That's the key. Listen closely. The identity you choose controls the habits you keep. If you identify as someone trying to be productive, you'll always seek motivation. If you identify as a productive person, you'll simply act productive. Identity comes before consistency. Consistency confirms identity. They reinforce each other, but it starts in your language. Words matter. Your brain listens to what you say. When you say, "I'm trying," your brain hears, "I might fail." When you say, "I am," your brain builds proof to protect that identity. That's how humans work. You defend what you believe you are. So start saying the truth you want to live. I am disciplined. I am consistent. I am calm under pressure. Don't wait until it feels true. Repeat it until it becomes true. Stop trying. Start being. Every identity is built through evidence. Every repetition is evidence. Every small win is a vote for who you are. You don't need to become a new person overnight. You just need to start stacking votes for your new identity. Each day you show up early, that's a vote. Each day you finish the task, that's a vote. Each day you keep your word, that's a vote. That's how the identity shift happens, one vote at a time, one repetition at a time. Repetition creates results. Results create respect, and that respect starts with yourself. Let me tell you this, you can't fake identity forever. You can fake motivation, you can fake enthusiasm, but you can't fake identity. Because identity shows up when nobody's watching, when the lights are off, when the camera's not rolling. That's when your real standards reveal themselves. And here's the truth, the world eventually sees who you really are. Not what you say you'll do, but what you repeat, what you embody. So ask yourself honestly, who are you becoming when nobody's watching? Here's how to shift your identity in real life, not in theory, in practice. Step 1. Define the identity. Decide who you want to be, not what you want to have. Write it down, speak it out loud, anchor it in your mind. Example, don't say, "I want to run a marathon." Say, "I'm a runner." Then act like one. Step 2. Act in alignment, daily. Identity grows through repetition. You don't prove it once, you live it constantly. Even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Step 3. Eliminate contradictions. Every time you act out of character with your chosen identity, you weaken it. Stop saying you're disciplined if you still make excuses. Stop saying you're focused if your phone controls your attention. Live in alignment. That's where power is. The world respects people who are, not people who try. Think about a Navy SEAL, a surgeon, or a pilot. They don't try to be disciplined. They are disciplined. It's built into their identity through repetition, structure, and commitment. That's why they don't hesitate when the pressure hits. They act from identity, not emotion. That's the level you're aiming for, automatic execution, where your standards are so ingrained, your default is discipline. That's real freedom, freedom from hesitation, freedom from doubt, because you don't need to think, you just are. Let's repeat this until it sinks in. You're not waiting for the right mood. You're not waiting for the right time. You're not waiting for permission. You already are the person who does it. Every action you take reinforces that truth. Every time you show up, you make it real. Stop trying. Start being. That's the mantra. That's the shift. You're not building discipline anymore. You're becoming it. You have a choice right now. You can keep chasing who you want to be, or you can start living it. There's no finish line for identity, only evidence. So start collecting it, one rep at a time, one promise kept at a time, one moment of follow-through at a time. That's how discipline transforms from something you do into something you are. You've stopped trying, you've started being, and once you are, you never have to start again, because being is permanent. You've built the mindset, you've built the repetition, you've built the identity. Now it's time to test it, because identity means nothing without pressure, and pressure reveals everything. You've learned to act without emotion. You've learned to repeat without motivation. Now it's time to hold your ground under pressure. Chapter 6. Calm Under Fire. How to Stay Unshaken When Life Hits Back. End of Chapter 5. Approximately 1,050 words. Would you like me to continue next with Chapter 6, Calm Under Fire, How to Stay Unshaken, in the same style and length, 7 to 9 minutes, intense audiobook delivery?
Absolutely. Here's your full-length audiobook script for Chapter 6, Kill the Excuse Voice. Approx 1,030 words, written in the hard-hitting, tough love audiobook coach tone, ideal for 7 to 9 minutes of narration. Chapter 6, Kill the Excuse Voice. Everyone has it. That quiet, convincing whisper in the back of your mind. The voice that sounds reasonable. The voice that sounds logical. The voice that tells you why today isn't the right day. That's not your intuition. That's your excuse voice. And it's your biggest enemy. It's the internal negotiator. It's the smooth-talking liar that will sabotage your goals in the name of self-care, balance, or common sense. But make no mistake, that voice doesn't want your peace. It wants your potential. The excuse voice always sounds smart. It sounds protective. It sounds rational. But it's poison disguised as comfort. It says, you worked hard yesterday. Take a break. It says, you're not feeling it today. You'll do better tomorrow. It says, you deserve to relax. You've earned it. And every time you listen, you teach your brain a dangerous lesson. Comfort wins. Excuses work. That's how mediocrity becomes habit. Here's the truth. Excuses sound smart. Results sound louder. You don't need to justify results. You don't need to explain consistency. You don't need to defend discipline. Results speak for you. Excuses keep you talking. That's the difference. You have to learn to recognize that voice instantly, because it doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't say quit, it says rest. It doesn't say stop, it says slow down. It doesn't say you're weak, it says you've earned it. That's why it's so dangerous. It sounds like you. It uses your tone, your logic, your emotions. But it's not you. It's the weaker version of you, the one built on habit, comfort, and fear, the one that's terrified of change. You have to kill that version. You kill it by exposing it. You kill it by refusing to debate with it.
You kill it by acting faster than it can talk. That's the key. The longer you think, the louder the voice gets. The louder the voice gets, the slower you move. The slower you move, the stronger the voice becomes. Action silences excuses. Always. You don't argue with the excuse voice. You override it. You move before it finishes the sentence. You decide before it lists the reasons. You show up before it convinces you not to. That's the discipline mindset. Let me be clear. The excuse voice never disappears. It evolves with you. When you're lazy, it excuses laziness. When you're disciplined, it disguises itself as logic. It'll tell you you're being too rigid. It'll tell you you're burning out. It'll tell you this isn't sustainable. But what it really means is you're changing too fast. You're becoming too strong. You're leaving me behind. And that's when you know you're on the right path. The presence of resistance is the proof of progress. Think of it like this. Your brain has two voices, the builder and the breaker. The builder says, let's go. The breaker says, let's wait. Every day, one of them wins. You can't silence the breaker completely, but you can starve it. Every time you act without hesitation, you feed the builder. Every time you listen to excuses, you strengthen the breaker. You decide which one lives longer. That's the choice. Every morning, every workout, every project, every challenge. You have a choice. And that's the key. Here's how to destroy excuses in real life, step by step. Step 1, call it out. The moment you hear the negotiation start, stop it mid-sentence. Say it out loud. That's an excuse. Naming it breaks its power. Step 2, reframe it. When it says, you're too tired, reframe it. Perfect. Training tired builds mental endurance. When it says, you're not ready, say, that's why I'm doing this, to get ready. Turn every excuse into an opportunity for toughness. Step 3, act before you think. Don't let the voice finish the story. Stand up, move, execute. Discipline starts in the seconds before the voice wins. That's where your strength is built, in the immediate override. Let's be honest. You've lost days, weeks, maybe years to that internal voice. We all have. The projects never started. The habits never formed. The potential never realized. All because of one whispered excuse that sounded reasonable. But not anymore. From this moment forward, that voice doesn't get a vote. You've seen what it does. You've seen what it costs. And you've decided comfort is no longer your goal. Growth is. You don't need your excuses. You need your execution. The truth is simple. Nobody respects the voice of excuses. Not your team, not your family, not your future self. The world respects results because results can't be faked. Excuses are built on noise. Results are built on proof. Excuses sound smart. Results sound louder. So let your work speak for you. Let your repetition speak for you. Let your consistency drown out every excuse that ever tried to stop you. That's how you win. You have a choice. Stay loyal to your excuses or stay loyal to your growth. You can't serve both. You can be comfortable or you can be disciplined. You can explain or you can execute. You can sound smart or you can be unstoppable. You decide. Now remember this. The voice will come back. It always does. But this time you'll recognize it. You'll hear it, smile, and move anyway. Because that's what discipline does. It moves even when the mind resists. And every time you override that voice, your real voice gets louder. Your voice of strength. Your voice of purpose. your voice of truth. You silence the negotiator and amplify the warrior. You've killed the excuse voice. Now it's time to master the external noise, the opinions, the doubts, the critics. Because the next battle isn't inside your head, it's out there. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Silence. How to move in private and let your work speak. End of Chapter 6. Approx 1,030 words. Would you like me to continue writing Chapter 7, The Discipline of Silence, How to Move in Private and Let Your Work Speak next, in this same powerful audiobook tone and pacing?
Absolutely. Here's your complete audiobook script for Chapter 7, The Discipline of Focus, One Thing Until Done. Approx 1,050 words, written in the hard-hitting, cinematic, tough love coaching tone used in viral self-discipline audiobooks. Chapter 7. The Discipline of Focus. One Thing Until Done. Focus is power. Not talent, not luck, not opportunity. Focus. Because the truth is, scatter destroys progress. Distraction kills dreams. And chasing everything guarantees you'll master nothing. Focus is the weapon of the disciplined. It's the difference between busy and effective, between motion and momentum. One thing, every day, until done. That's the code. Most people never finish anything because they never commit to one thing. They dabble, they test, they start strong, then drift. They want results like the greats, but they live like amateurs, scattered, distracted, easily moved. They don't understand that focus is a choice, a brutal, daily, disciplined choice to eliminate everything that doesn't move the mission forward. You can't master 10 things, you can barely master one. But when you do, that one thing changes everything. That's the key. Think about the world's best performers. Athletes, monks, CEOs, artists. They all live by the same code. One thing, every day until done. Kobe Bryant didn't try to be good at everything. He mastered the same shot thousands of times. Monks don't chase stimulation. They sit in silence until stillness becomes their strength. CEOs don't chase trends. They build one product, one system, one vision until it dominates the market. Focus compounds. Distraction dilutes. That's the math of mastery. Let's be clear. The enemy of focus isn't laziness. It's fragmentation. Every notification, every new idea, every shiny opportunity pulls a piece of your mind away from the mission. And every time you shift attention, you restart momentum. That's why most people stay stuck. They're always starting, never finishing. They mistake movement for progress. They confuse activity with achievement. But listen carefully. Movement without direction is noise, and noise kills results. You don't need more goals. You need more focus. You have to protect your attention like it's gold, because it is. Your time means nothing if your attention is fractured. You can sit at your desk for 10 hours and get nothing done if your mind is in 10 places. But 2 hours of focused execution can outwork 10 hours of scattered effort. That's the secret that discipline know. They don't chase more time. They chase more clarity. They don't ask, how can I do more? They ask, what's the one thing that truly matters? And then they do it, relentlessly, until it's finished. You have a choice. You can be a collector of half-built projects or a finisher of meaningful work. You can live in distraction or dominate through focus. But you can't have both. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right thing, consistently, completely, without compromise. That's discipline. Here's how to build the discipline of focus practically, step by step. Step 1. Define the one thing. If you don't define it, the world will define it for you. Decide what matters most. One goal, one mission, one skill. Write it down. Commit.
If it's not written, it's not real. Step 2. Eliminate everything else. Every distraction is a leak in your energy. Say no to almost everything. If it doesn't serve the mission, it's a distraction. Cut it. You don't need more willpower. You need fewer options. Step 3. Create deep work blocks. Set time where nothing else exists. No phone, no tabs, no noise. Your best work lives in undisturbed silence. Do it daily. Do it deliberately. Do it until done. Step 4. Repeat. Every day, return to the same mission. Every day, recommit to the same focus. That's how identity forms. Repetition isn't boring. It's the birthplace of greatness. Focus is a discipline of subtraction. You don't become sharper by adding, you become sharper by cutting away. The knife doesn't get strong by adding more metal, it gets sharp by removing it. That's how your mind works too. Discipline is refinement through repetition. You remove distractions until only purpose remains. One thing, every day, until done. Say it again. One thing, every day, until let it sink in. That's how you build unshakable results. That's how you build mastery. Think about it. When you look back at your life, you won't remember the things you started. You'll remember the things you finished, the things you saw through, the missions that tested your focus and proved your discipline. That's legacy. Legacy doesn't come from multitasking. It comes from mastery. The world doesn't reward the distracted. It rewards the disciplined. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be effective where you are. You don't need to chase everything. You need to finish something. You don't need to prove. You need to produce. That's the difference. So today, pick one mission, one habit, one pursuit, and commit to it with brutal focus. When the urge to switch shows up, stay. When the novelty fades, stay. When boredom creeps in, stay. That's the battle. That's the grind. That's where focus becomes identity. You don't need to feel motivated. You need to be consistent. Because consistency compounds faster than chaos. Focus is how you outlast talent. Focus is how you outwork luck. Focus is how you outlive distraction. So from this moment forward, build your discipline on one truth. Scatter destroys progress. Focus compounds it. Let others chase everything. You'll master one thing. Let them jump from idea to idea. You'll dig deep until the work is done. Because discipline doesn't chase. It builds. It stays. It finishes. That's who you are now. One thing, every day, until done. That's not a slogan. That's your new standard. You're not a dabbler anymore. You're a finisher. You're a builder. You're the one who does what others talk about. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You just need your focus. And that's the key. You've mastered the discipline of focus, the power of doing one thing completely. Now it's time to master the invisible force behind all growth, time. Because focus means nothing if you waste the hours you have. And discipline means nothing if you can't manage your minutes. Let's go deeper. Let's build control over the one resource you can never get back. Chapter 8. The Discipline of Time. Own the clock before it owns you. Congratulations. End of Chapter 7. Approx 1,050 words. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 8, The Discipline of Time, Own the Clock Before It Owns You, next?
Absolutely. Here's your full audiobook script for Chapter 8, The Quiet Hours Build the Loud Results. Approx 1,050 words, direct, tough love coaching tone with heavy rhythm and repetition for maximum impact. Chapter 8, The Quiet Hours Build the Loud Results. Everybody wants to shine under the lights, but nobody wants to sweat in the dark. Everybody wants to be seen, but few want to do the work that nobody claps for. Listen carefully. Discipline happens off camera. Success is built when no one's watching. The quiet hours build the loud results. That's the truth. The world sees the highlight. You live the grind. People love the story after you win, but they'll never see what it took to get there. They'll never see the mornings you woke up when it was still dark. They'll never see the nights you stayed in while everyone else went out. They'll never see the sacrifices that silence demanded. And that's fine, because it's not about being seen. It's about being built. That's the key. You have to learn to love the quiet. The silence is where you grow. The boredom is where you sharpen. The solitude is where you separate yourself. The quiet hours are where identity forms. They strip away the noise, the opinions, the distractions. They leave you face to face with the work and with yourself. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not shared on social media. But it's real, and real is what lasts. Everyone wants the public motivation, the applause, the likes, the validation. But public motivation fades. Private mastery endures. The difference? Motivation depends on noise. Mastery depends on silence. You don't need the world to see your grind. You need to live it. You don't need the camera. You need commitment. You don't need witnesses. You need work. The quiet hours are where you prove to yourself that you mean what you say. You have a choice. You can chase attention, or you can chase improvement. You can crave recognition, or you can crave results. But you can't have both. It's not about who notices. It's about who becomes. The world celebrates the outcome, but the disciplined, they celebrate the process. They understand that greatness is forged in repetition. They know that silence is the sound of progress. Think of the greats, the soldier training before dawn, the athlete running drills long after the crowd is gone, the artist refining the same line again and again in an empty studio. No spotlight, no audience, no praise. Just quiet, just discipline, just relentless follow-through. That's what builds strength the world can't see, until it has no choice but to see it. The world sees the highlight. You live the grind. Say it again. The world sees the highlight. You live the grind. If you want to build something that lasts, a skill, a body, a mindset, a legacy, you must learn to thrive when no one's watching. Because most people can only perform when the camera's on. They only push when someone's clapping. They only act when they think it'll be noticed. But that's not discipline. That's dependency. Discipline is doing the reps when it's quiet, when it's cold, when it's lonely. That's when your foundation is built. You don't rise to the occasion. You rise to the level of your training. And your training happens in silence. That's the difference between those who talk about it and those who become it. Here's the truth. If you can stay consistent in silence, success will eventually get loud. The quiet hours compound. The unseen work builds visible results. Every page written in private becomes a book that changes lives. Every lonely workout becomes the physique they admire. Every quiet morning becomes a habit that rewires your mind. But you can't skip the silence. You can't rush the solitude. You can't fake the grind. The quiet hours don't ask for recognition. They ask for repetition. Here's what you do. This is how you turn silence into strength. Step 1. Set your private standard. Decide what you'll do every day, whether anyone knows it or not. Your standard isn't for show. It's for self-respect. You're not proving anything. You're becoming something. Step 2. Create sacred hours. Block time where the world can't touch you. No phone, no noise, no distractions. That time is your forge. That's where you grow in peace while the world sleeps. Step 3. Let go of the need to share. Not everything needs to be posted. Keep some victories sacred. Private wins build quiet confidence. Because when you no longer need to be seen, you become unstoppable. Understand this. The loudest people rarely last. The most consistent people rarely talk. Discipline doesn't need a witness. It just needs you. Every repetition done in silence, that's a deposit into your future. Every early morning, every lonely night, every quiet session, that's how you earn the life you say you want. You don't need loud talk from loud results. You get them from silent work. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You don't need proof. You need presence. You need patience. You need persistence. That's the formula. The quiet hours are the test. The unseen grind is the measure. The question is simple. Can you stay committed when no one's watching? Because if you can, the world will have no choice to see you later. The quiet hours build the loud results. That's the truth. That's the discipline. That's the difference. You have to learn to move in silence, to build without broadcasting, to train without validation. Because true confidence doesn't come from being seen. It comes from knowing you've done the work again and again when no one else cared. That's how you earn self-respect. That's how you build power. That's how you live disciplined. So remember this. Every great story begins in silence. Every legacy starts in obscurity. The quiet hours build the loud results. Say it again. The quiet hours build the loud results. Now it's your turn. Get quiet. Get consistent. Get dangerous. You've mastered focus. You've learned the value of attention. Now it's time to master control, not of your environment, but of your mind. Because the next chapter isn't about action. It's about emotion. And emotional control is the final frontier of discipline. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. Chapter 9. Mastering the Inner War. Control your mind before it controls you. Let's go. Chapter 9. Mastering the Inner War. Control your mind before it controls you. And end of Chapter 8. Approx 1,050 words. Would you like me to continue immediately with Chapter 9, Mastering the Inner War, Control Your Mind Before It Controls You?
Absolutely. Below is your full audiobook script for Chapter 9, Pain is the Signal You're Growing. Approximately 1,050 words, crafted for powerful pacing, repetition, and tough love narration in audiobook format. Chapter 9. Pain is the signal you're growing. Growth hurts. That's the truth nobody wants to admit. Everybody wants strength, but nobody wants struggle. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants challenge. Everybody wants evolution, but they keep running from the very thing that creates it, pain. You've been taught to avoid pain, to label it as bad, to medicate it, distract from it, hide from it. But pain isn't the enemy. Pain is the proof. Pain is the signal that something inside you is being broken or built. Pain means progress. Comfort means decay. Say it again. Pain means progress. Comfort means decay. That's the key. Think about it. Every muscle that grows must first be torn. Every belief that evolves must first be challenged. Every version of you that improves must first die. That's the process of growth, death and rebirth, resistance and adaptation. The people who run from pain stay the same. The people who lean into it rise. You have a choice. Every time life gets uncomfortable, you can retreat to safety or step into growth. You can run from pain, or you can learn from it. Here's the truth. Comfort feels good now.
Pain feels good later. Comfort gives you relief. Pain gives you results. Comfort keeps you who you are. Pain turns you into who you're meant to be. You can't build toughness in easy conditions. You can't build grit when everything's smooth. You can't develop discipline when life hands you comfort. Discipline is forged in resistance. Mental strength is built through stress. Character is carved through challenge. Every great mind, every strong soul, every disciplined warrior, they all share one trait. They don't fear pain. They follow it. The gym teaches you this better than anything. When your muscles burn, that's not a sign to stop, it's a sign you're growing. When you feel resistance, that's not weakness, it's proof of effort. The pain is your progress report. It's the same in life. That argument that tested your patience, growth. That rejection that bruised your ego, growth. That failure that made you question yourself, growth. It doesn't feel good, but it is good. Because pain is information. It's feedback from your potential. You have to stop seeing pain as punishment. You have to start seeing it as feedback. Pain says you're doing something hard. Pain says you're leaving the old you behind. Pain says you're closer than you think. Pain is not there to break you. It's there to build you. You can't avoid it and expect strength. You can't escape it and expect transformation. You have to meet it, face it, and walk through it. Pain means progress. Comfort means decay. The greatest mistake people make is trying to remove pain from their lives entirely. They chase ease. They avoid challenge. They trade discomfort for distraction. And then they wonder why they feel weak, restless, unfulfilled. Because without pain, you lose pressure. And without pressure, you lose growth. That's the paradox. The thing you fear most, pain, is the very thing that frees you. If you avoid pain, you avoid progress. If you avoid struggle, you avoid strength. If you avoid the discomfort of change, you stay trapped in the comfort of mediocrity. You don't grow by avoiding pain. You grow by aligning with it. Here's what that means in real life. When your body says stop, give it one more rep. When your mind says quit, give it one more hour. When your comfort zone says enough, give it one more day. That's how growth works. Discipline doesn't ask, does this hurt? It asks, is this worth it? That's the difference between the average and the unstoppable. The average seeks comfort. The unstoppable seeks challenge. Because they understand the secret. Pain means progress. Comfort means decay. There's a story you need to remember. A butterfly struggles to break free from its cocoon. If you help it by cutting the cocoon open, the butterfly dies. Why? Because the struggle is what strengthens its wings. Without the resistance, it never develops the strength to fly. That's you. Every hardship is your cocoon. Every challenge is your resistance training. Every ounce of pain is the pressure building your wings. If you cut the pain short, if you escape the lesson, you never get to soar. You must learn to lean into pain with purpose. That's the shift. When life hurts, ask why. Ask what it's trying to teach you. Ask how it's shaping you. Pain always points to weakness being exposed. And when weakness is exposed, strength can be built. That's growth. You don't get stronger by avoiding pain. You get stronger by surviving it and coming back sharper. You can't shortcut this process. You can't cheat it. You can only commit to it. Because pain means progress. Comfort means decay. Here's what you do. When you feel discomfort, don't escape it. Observe it. Don't drown it out, sit in it. Let it teach you. What still needs work? You'll start to realize something. Pain loses power when you stop fearing it. Because pain is never permanent. But the growth it gives you, that lasts forever. You'll stop running from pain. You'll start using it as fuel. The best use of pain is transformation. The worst use of pain is avoidance. You have a choice. Every time you hurt, you can hide or you can evolve. Choose evolution. That's the key. Understand this. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "You've done enough." It tells you, "You deserve to relax." But comfort decays. It softens the mind. It weakens the will. It erodes the edge that discipline gives you. The more comfortable you become, the further you drift from your potential. Pain pulls you back. Pain wakes you up. Pain keeps you sharp. That's the gift of pain. So the next time it hurts, smile, because it means something's working. It means your limits are being tested. It means your potential is being unlocked. That's the real signal. Pain means progress. Comfort means decay. Remember that line. Repeat it when you're tired. Repeat it when you're tested. Repeat it when you're tempted to quit, because that's when growth is closest. You've learned to face pain, not to avoid it, but to use it. You've learned that every moment of discomfort is a deposit into your strength. Now it's time to take that lesson deeper, because there's a state of mind even stronger than pain tolerance: emotional stillness. When you can endure pain without reacting, that's power. When you can move through storms without flinching, that's mastery. You've learned to suffer well. Now, let's learn to stay still. Chapter 10. Become unstoppable by being unmoved. Chapter 9. Chapter 10. Become unstoppable by being unmoved. Chapter 9. Approximately 1,050 words. Would you like me to now write Chapter 10, Become Unstoppable by Being Unmoved, in the same audiobook tone and length?
Absolutely. Below is the full 1,050-word audiobook script for Chapter 10, Become Unstoppable by Being Unmoved, written in the same hard-hitting, minimalist, tough love tone designed for YouTube audiobook narration. Chapter 10, Become Unstoppable by Being Unmoved. The strongest people in the world aren't loud. They're still. They don't flinch. They don't panic. They don't chase. They move with control, calm, steady, unshaken. That's real power. Not emotion, not hype, not noise. Stillness. Because stillness means mastery, and mastery means freedom. You can't control outcomes, but you can control reactions, and that's where discipline lives, inside your response. You have a choice. Every day, every moment. React or remain. Panic or pause. Collapse or control. That's the key. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. When you're unmoved, you stop being a puppet to your emotions. You stop letting fear, doubt, or frustration dictate your direction. You stop being tossed around by every setback. Because here's the truth. Most people don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they overreact. They waste energy on what they can't control. They chase every opinion. They spiral after every failure. They let emotion drain discipline. But discipline doesn't live in chaos. It lives in stillness. If your mind is noisy, you can't think clearly. If you're reactive, you can't respond effectively. If you're emotionally entangled in every result, you lose control of your actions. You don't need to control the outcome. You just need to control yourself. That's how you win. Let me make this clear. You can't stop storms from coming, but you can stop yourself from being blown away. The storm is not the problem. Your reaction is. That's what separates the disciplined from the emotional. One stays focused, the other gets consumed. It's not about the size of the problem. It's about the stability of your state. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. That's the formula. Think about the greatest warriors, leaders, and performers. They all share this same quality: emotional control. A monk sitting in meditation for hours. A soldier under pressure who doesn't flinch. a CEO watching markets crash but staying strategic. They all master the same thing: internal stillness. They know that chaos outside doesn't require chaos inside. They understand that every reaction costs energy, and they protect that energy like treasure. When you control your energy, you control your life. When you control your reactions, you control your results. That's discipline at its purest form. You must train your mind to be still, not numb, still. Stillness doesn't mean apathy. It means control. It means you feel emotion, but you don't let it drive. You experience fear, but you don't obey it. You feel anger, but you don't feed it. You remain centered. That's real strength. Because anyone can act tough when things go their way. But the truly disciplined, they stay composed when everything falls apart. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. That's who you become. When you stop letting emotion dictate execution. Understand this: life will test your balance. That's inevitable. You'll lose people. You'll lose opportunities. You'll face rejection, failure, frustration. The test isn't whether you can avoid those things. The test is whether you can remain stable through them. You can't control who leaves. You can't control who doubts you. You can't control what the world throws your way. But you can always control how you show up. That's what the disciplined mind understands. Control yourself, and you'll never be controlled by circumstance. That's the difference between surviving and mastering life. The mind is a battlefield. Every reaction is a potential loss. When someone insults you, your ego wants to respond. When life disappoints you, your emotions want to collapse. When failure hits, your pride wants to quit. But that's where discipline steps in. Discipline whispers, wait. Discipline says, hold the line. Discipline says, be unmoved. You don't respond from emotion. You respond from intention. You don't chase control of the outside world. You master control of the inside world. And that's the real game. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. It's not about not feeling. It's about not being ruled by what you feel. When you detach from outcomes, you gain power. When you detach from approval, you gain freedom. When you detach from emotion, you gain clarity. That's how you execute consistently. Because emotions are inconsistent. They rise and fall. They twist and turn. But discipline, true discipline, stands still. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. Here's how you build that discipline. First, slow down your reactions. When something hits you emotionally, pause. Don't react instantly. Breathe. Step back. Watch it. That moment between stimulus and response, that's your power. Second, name the emotion. Say, this is anger. This is fear. This is insecurity. Labeling separates you from it. You're not the emotion. You're the observer. Third, act only on logic and principle, not impulse. Ask yourself, does this action align with my discipline? If not, you don't move. That's how you train stillness. That's how you build control. It's not easy, but nothing powerful ever is. Every time you stay calm under pressure, you build strength. Every time you refuse to react, you gain leverage. Every time you choose stillness, you harden your mental armor. Because reactions drain power, stillness multiplies it. Most people think winning means moving faster, but often winning means standing still longer. Stillness is focus. Stillness is strategy. Stillness is strength. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. That's who you become when you own your response to life. You don't need to fight every battle.
You don't need to answer every insult. You don't need to explain every move. Because power doesn't explain itself. Power just acts, calmly, consistently, decisively. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not endless motion, but emotional stillness. You can't be moved by fear. You can't be shaken by opinion. You can't be stopped by temporary failure. You've trained your mind to stay steady. That's real mastery. You've become the eye of the storm, calm, controlled, centered. Everything around you moves, but you don't. Unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. That's who you become. You've mastered yourself, and that's the foundation of all discipline. Because the mind that can stay still under pressure can build anything: a career, a legacy, a life worth living. You've learned to stop chasing outcomes and start commanding your inner world. That's how you become untouchable. Now it's time to talk about what happens when you've mastered stillness. When you no longer chase, react, or seek validation. When your discipline turns into presence. Because there's a state beyond doing. It's the art of being. You've become unmoved. Next, you'll learn to move with purpose. Chapter 11. The Discipline of Presence, Power in the Now. Complete? End of Chapter 10, approximately 1,050 words. Would you like me to continue immediately with Chapter 11, The Discipline of Presence, Power in the Now, in the same audiobook tone and structure?